everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hot for Teacher. This is episode number 32, and I'm so glad that you're here. We're going to be talking about relationships and feelings and I guess thoughts and practices as well. So if you haven't watched Hot for Teacher before, if episode 32 is episode number 1 for you, welcome. Thanks for watching. We're going to be talking about relationships. This is a relationship. I've been calling it like a call-in or write-in relationship advice show for a while, for 32 episodes. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe that's not the best way to describe it, because I don't necessarily know that I'm giving advice. I mean, I'm sort of giving advice. It's like a discussion forum. It's like a platform during which I talk about relationships and sometimes try to like help people get their head around stuff. But I sometimes feel like the main goal of Hot for Teacher is to just remind people that like the things they're struggling with and the feelings they're having and like their lives and experiences are valid. Like, I honestly just feel like sometimes the whole purpose of the show entirely is just to spend an hour being like, it's okay. It's okay that you are experiencing what you're experiencing. It is fine and it is normal that you are feeling what you're feeling. And I feel like, you know what, if every episode, if that's all I do, if I just spend a lot of hot air telling you that the things that you're feeling are okay, then you know what? You know what? That's okay with me. I'm all right with that. The goal of the show, though, and the framework of the show is that every week I answer 3 questions. I discuss 3 points that are given to me by you, my audience, by way of the website, www.adam-coble.com/hot-4-teacher. Go to the website if you have a question, if you have something you want me to talk about, if you just need someone to be like, it's okay, just go ahead. Just go and fill out that form. And some of those questions I will take and I will bring them onto the show. Pardon me. And we'll have a longer discussion about them. Usually what we talk about on this show are things like friendship and relationships and coworkers and people we're in love with and family and just the general kind of interrelated messiness that is being a person. Obviously I have my own stuff that I bring to the table as a queer person, as someone who is non-monogamous, who is a romantic. Like, I have a lot of stuff that I will bring to the table. So I may not every time be able to say, you know what, I know how you feel, right? Sometimes I will not be able to be like, yes, I have felt that myself, but it doesn't mean that your feelings and the things that you need to talk about are not valid. So I like to consider this really just like the first point in what I hope to be like a longer line of work. So, you know, if you are listening to the questions today, maybe they're your questions, maybe they're someone else's, and you're thinking, yeah, that's interesting. Adam has some good points. Maybe I don't agree with everything he's saying. Maybe there's some stuff that I'm missing. Don't think of Hot for Teacher as being a solution-oriented piece of media, right? The goal here is not to fix things. The goal here is just to get you thinking about stuff and maybe inspire you to have these conversations with the people around you, right? Maybe I'm going to talk about something today that makes you think, you know what, I should take what Adam said and I should go and I should discuss these things with a coworker or with a sibling or whatever, right? Maybe this is just the beginning of a line of new thinking. I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to fix your problems. I'm just here to talk about stuff with you and maybe get your brain going. So today I have 2 questions that are themed around, we're going to be talking about non-monogamy. We're going to talk about like open relationships. We're going to be talking about what that looks like and what that means. I've got 2 questions that relate to very different points of view on that structure. And then in the middle, we're sandwiching a question about long distance. And I want to talk about kind of the narrative of long distance relationships and sort of what they can be like and how to survive when you're in a situation where you're not close to the people you care about. So let's start though. I've got a question from a relationship neophyte. Bunny has some questions about just kind of getting started on things. So Bunny has submitted quite a long question. That's all right. I'll read it to you. So I've been at a new job for a few months now, and there happens to be a coworker I'm crushing on a little. I'm 23 and only just in my first serious relationship. I've brought up doing things with other people with my partner, and they're fine with it. My partner is so beautifully accepting and has been poly in the past, but this 3-year relationship has remained monogamous since the beginning. And I've only ever been monogamous. However, this cute coworker makes me want to try to dabble. Regardless if it's a friends with benefit ordeal, well, choice of words, buddy. A friends with benefits ordeal or something different. I would like to see if there's something there, right? Curiosity, that's the thing. We'll talk about it. Being someone who's never ventured even remotely close to a poly relationship of any kind, how do I go about this? The coworker and I get along nicely, and I can very easily see us being friends down the line, but is it as simple as bringing it up one day and being like, hey, I have a partner, but I'm poly, and I would love to try stuff with you. I'm always trying to be aware of how I sound because I've had some learning disabilities in the past, a lot of them connected to social interaction. I don't want to be creepy or make things awkward at work. Should I avoid that altogether, being as they're my coworker? Do you have any tips on how I should tackle another situation like this in the future? Would it be hugely different if this person wasn't someone I see on a semi-regular basis? Should I consult my partner for advice like this? Bunny, putting in the work, thinking about this stuff. There's so much there. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, right? There's a lot to this. I think that Bunny's question interested me because they are relatively inexperienced in terms of relationships in general, right? So there's that. There's this, I'm not really sure kind of what I'm doing situation, right? There is, I'm not really sure what I'm doing. I'm with someone in a long-term relationship and they have experience with non-monogamy, but I do not, right? Then on top of that, there's like, I want to try this in an environment that is very different, right? 3 years of learned behavior is a lot to shift, right? So there's that. Then we throw on top of all of that, that this person, it's a person, not a thing, this person that has sparked Bunny's potential interest is a work relationship. And I think that there's a lot of thought and opinion about whether or not we should try to engage the people we work with in non-work relationships. So it's a lot. You got a lot in front of you, Bunny. And honestly, if you want an experience that is going to be smoother, if you want an experience that is going to be less likely to be bumpy, I think maybe work is not the place. However, I'm not fundamentally opposed, and I don't think anyone should be. I'm not fundamentally opposed to the idea that we can't meet people in one context and then enjoy them in another. How on earth would we ever build relationships with people if we were only allowed to engage them in the context in which we met them, right? I met someone at school. I'm only allowed to study with them. I met someone playing a role-playing game. We can never go to the movies together. I had casual sex with someone I met at the bar. God forbid I try to build a relationship with them, right? I don't think that there's a reasonable truism here anywhere. People are going to tell you, and I don't mean just Bunny, but I mean people in general, people are going to tell you like, never do this, never do that. In no circumstance should this thing occur. There are risks involved in being in a relationship with someone, in changing your intimacy. If you are shifting from one thing to another, there are risks there. And it's wise to acknowledge them and to understand those risks and what might be involved before you make that change. So I think if we want to kind of understand the work thing, I think it's reasonable to meet people at work and then to build your relationship from there. I think that's fine. I think it's totally fine. I have had positive experiences having more intimate relationships with people I met at work. Lots of times. I have like dated people that I have worked with. I have been in relationships there. You got to be aware of the power differential right? There's like gender stuff at play here. There is this need to be rational about what will happen if this relationship ends, right? How do we have an exit plan? And I think people consider that idea, that sort of thinking, to be pretty fatalistic or not a romantic idea, right? They think about the idea of breaking up with someone before you're even with them as being, I don't know, not a good thing to do in a relationship. But honestly, if you're in a relationship with somebody, regardless of its format or its content, and you're not thinking about what your life would be like if you weren't in that relationship, you are doing yourself a disservice, because all relationships end. All relationships change and all relationships end. And if you don't think about like, what will it be like when this relationship is over, you're dooming a future version of yourself. You're handing yourself a time bomb that is going to go off later, and you have not thought about what you are going to do about it. So in the case of like getting into a more intimate relationship with somebody that you're working with, like think about like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do if we decide that this isn't for us anymore? How would I react? How would I feel? Would I be comfortable around this person? Am I going to be okay moving from one kind of relationship to another in a way that might not be like happy or pleasant for me, right? So I think the thing is that you know, you want to assess the risk. Is this person a coworker and an equal? Is this person somebody who has power over you in a work environment? Do you have power over them in a work environment? Power differential can be fun and sexy, but not when your career is at stake, right? And none of this takes into account like what this person thinks of you. So I would take it slow, right? I would take it nice and slow, regardless of whether this is a part of a larger experiment with non-monogamy. It's whether it's got anything to do with your partner or anything. Just like, let's set all that aside, right? Take all that stuff and set it aside. And just for a moment, think about your relationship with this person as it stands. Don't go up to them and be like, hi, so you work in the next cubicle over, and I would love it if we could make out. Like that's a lot all at once for most people, right? What you can do though is find an opportunity to get to know this person better outside of work, right? Give them a chance not to recontextualize immediately into a relationship space, but to recontextualize outside of work, right? Take that relationship and see what it's like outside. And the fucking easiest way, you have a way to do this already, right? This is what's great about work, because work is usually a structured environment in which you're like, you get there at a certain time, you leave at a certain time, you overlap with a person, and there's behaviors within that environment, one of which is lunch. Ask this person to go and hang out with you for lunch. It is a nice, constrained environment. You are both going from one place to another place and then back to the original place to return to that job. There's no risk there, right? Even if you go out for lunch and they're a completely different person and you're like, oh my God, I can't stand this person. Just finish your sandwich, go back to work, and now you still have that work relationship, right? So you want to give them a chance to drift a little without it being like threatening or scary or weird. Like even inviting somebody you work with to do something outside of work when you're not going back to work. Like if you go up to them and you're like, hey, you're cool. You want to hang out and play Dungeons and Dragons with me? Like, yeah, that's great. Awesome. You can work up to that, but start with something really easy. I think the thing with getting to know people, and this is something that I have been on both sides of, the thing about getting to know somebody is you want to give them a chance to back away gently from you, right? Again, it sounds negative, but we don't, no matter how charming and cute and fun and awesome we are as people, sometimes there's just a mismatch of behaviors, right? Sometimes somebody just acts a way that you don't like, or somebody just, that we don't have to be friends with everybody. And you want to give people a chance to say no. You want to be able to say, hey, let's do this really low impact thing. Let's go get lunch together. I'm going to eat lunch anyway, and you're going to eat lunch. And do you want to come and eat lunch with me? And then you can talk about stuff that isn't work, and you can learn what their hobbies are, or like whatever, and get to know them as a person. You may be doing this already, right? If you haven't already done this, give them a little room to like step back from that work environment, get to know them a little, right? Then you can kind of feel out that situation. And in those situations, when you get somebody into a slightly more, like, here's the thing, you've got this great excuse. Say you go out for lunch with them, right? Say you're like, all right, let's go grab some sushi. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Let's go grab some sushi. We got 45 minutes. We got an hour. Let's go have sushi. You're sitting there. There's such a nice social segue to be like, let's talk about something that isn't work, right? Because the inclination will be like, you sit down and you be like, so how about those TPS reports? Oh yeah, Johnson is just, he's just on my ass about getting those reports finished. And boy, sure is crunch time here at the old office. I don't know where you work. I can't, this analogy sucks. But there is that inclination. You want to do that because that's what's on your mind, and it's easy because you already have that in common. But like, ask them about something else in their life, right? This is a great way to invite them to talk about the people that are important to them. It'll give you a chance to talk about, like, if you ask them, like, you know, what their life is like outside of work, you're going to learn things about them. And for nothing else, this is worth it for that, right? If we are interested in being in a relationship with somebody, if we're interested in them, I assume you want to know more about them. You want to learn things and you want to get to know them better. And this is a great excuse for that. So start there, right? I'm not saying avoid it altogether because they're a coworker, but be aware that it adds a level of tension, which you may not be ready for, right? Like, Bunny, I'm not trying to make you feel inexperienced or bad or anything, but like, you're in your first relationship. You have been with one person for 3 years. This person sounds awesome. They have more experience than you do. I don't want you to be in a position where you get in over your head. So take it nice and slow. You're 23. You've already got this great relationship that is supporting you. This is like a fun new thing, maybe. And don't be attached to any particular result. This is the danger of having a crush on someone, as I understand it, is that it can be easy to get it in your head the way things are going to be. Where you're like, oh, they're so cute and fun. And like, I can imagine what it would be like to be on a yacht with them, and we could make out and look at the sunset and drink champagne and fight international criminals together. Like you start to, and then they're like, hey, so can you pass me that TPS report that I need over there? Right? Like, it's very easy to let that stuff spiral out. My suggestion, and this is something that I think everybody could do. Play to find out what happens, right? Take the Vincent Baker game design approach to relationships. Be excited. Have stakes questions, right? Wonder about the relationship, but don't plan it out. Go for lunch, but don't go for lunch because you're like, I want to touch your butt. Go for lunch because you want to have lunch with this person and you're interested in like what kind of sushi they like, right? Go for lunch with them because you want to learn about them. Take it slow, be granular, get to know people. It's good for you, right? And like you said, at the worst case scenario, it'll just be like, well, we're coworkers and that's fine. You'll still have someone you can look over at Mr. Johnson and wish that he was dead together. So having genuine interest in somebody is a great way to get to know them. Getting to know them is a great way to find out if they're going to want to smash or not. And then you can go from there. So this is the tricky thing about talking about non-monogamy. So obviously, as someone who has been non-monogamous my entire life, in the same way that I have been queer my entire life, I wasn't always aware of it. I struggled with it a lot. I've been in a lot of relationships that the expectation was that it was a exclusive romantic relationship. And then of course, expectations get bent or broken. The thing about autocratic authority is that people bump up against it and things are more fluid than they appear to be. And I think about non-monogamy a lot. And I think that a big challenge is that it is the absence of something rather than a thing in and of itself. You've already talked to your partner about the idea of non-monogamy in general, right? Your partner is like, yeah, go and have sex with your hot coworker if that's the place you end up in, right? I will deal with my own stuff. I'm speaking as your partner here. They'll deal with their own stuff and you'll be okay. And that sounds great. You'll have that support there. You can, if you want to, talk to your partner about like how to get to know somebody, how to like date them, like what to do with this person in your co-working environment. But keep in mind that your partner has more experience than you, specific personal experience, and an agenda. Now, I don't want to undermine the like beautiful acceptance and the support you're obviously getting. I don't want to paint your partner as a villain or anything. And I'm certainly not trying to do that. But in a relationship, everyone has their own agenda. They have things that they want in that relationship. They want the relationship to continue in a way that makes them feel good and positive. And so if your partner is your only source of advice for external relationships, you have to keep in mind that they are going to give you advice that is obviously beneficial for you because they care about you, but will benefit them, whether they mean to or not. So, for example, if you are getting interested in somebody and it's a really good relationship for you, you're really happy about it, but there is a risk that that relationship might lead you away from your partner may, whether they intend to or not, give you advice that pulls them back, right? That keeps you close to them. So it's, yes, talk to your partner, obviously. Like, it sounds like you've done the basic work of being like, I would like to engage in some extra relational sexual romance content in my life, and that's good. You've got that okay, and they've consented to this as being part of your relationship. But have a bunch of other people you can talk to about this. Do not rely on a single person for all of your guidance. Now, I'm of the mind that I think that being in a relationship with someone with more experience can be really beneficial. Again, power differential can be a thing there, being aware of the difference in experience. But I think that if you are in a relationship with somebody who treats their life experience as something to be dispensed ethically and carefully, I think that it can be really, really good to be in a relationship with someone with their own experience. But keep in mind that your partner's experience, however beloved and wonderful they are, their experience is not yours. They learned different lessons. They had different things happen to them in their life, and you will, no matter what, your experience will diverge from theirs, and you'll come up with situations that they've never experienced before. So yes, it's like play testing, right? You want to hear what people's feedback is. You want to listen to people's advice. You want to hear what they think that they would do in those situations, but you want to make your own choice for yourself, right? You want to know what feels good for you. And then you want to govern all of this with a sense of ethical obligation to doing as little harm to yourself and anyone around you as possible. Now, I gotta say this. I gotta take a hot minute here and talk about a challenge that I see before you, Bunny. And this is something that I think happens to most people who are kind of trying to get into a non-monogamy space. It's weird to say, but I think that non-monogamy and poly and whatever you want to call it, I think it's kind of trendy right now. And it's weird to say that, right? Because I know that there's a lot of question about whether it's a practice or an identity, whether it's something that you are or you do. I feel like it's very much in the limelight in a lot of ways. I think that it is something that we are talking about more. I think that it's something that a lot of people are experimenting with. And so I think that it's worth talking about the way that I see most people getting into this space. Now, there are certainly, and this is something that I think is really fascinating and cool. I think that there are a lot of like kids, and Bunny, you are right on the line of what I would consider a kid. And I don't mean this in a patronizing way, but there are a lot of young people. God, I sound like such a grandpa. There are a lot of young people who are entering into the relationship world with a lot of very interesting options. I think that there are people who don't see things like being non-binary or being trans or the vast supply of the kink rainbow. They don't see any of these things as being particularly unusual or an aberration in any way, right? There is this internalized openness to just kind of like doing whatever feels like the right thing to do. And I think that's fucking awesome. And I'm so envious of anybody who is growing up in a space where that kind of relationship and like sex openness is a thing for them. But I think most people come into non-monogamy from monogamy, right? Which is what is happening here with Bunny, right? So Bunny is coming into this space from a 3-year monogamous relationship and a 23-year life having only one particular kind of relationship style that they've practiced. And like anyone who has never done something before, Bunny is inexperienced. And while some people are perfectly capable of being great at something the first time they do it, most of us fuck it up the first time we do a thing we've never done before, right? You never juggled? Try it. You're going to drop those oranges. It's going to happen, right? So that's okay. Accept your lack of experience. It's good. It's fine. It's a part of who you are. Making that change is difficult. My experience has been relationships that are monogamous, that shift into non-monogamy, tend to change so dramatically that they have a hard time surviving. Now, your partner has had non-monogamy experience in the past, so that'll help, but you might find it very difficult. Because if I had to guess, this might be a thing that will happen, right? So, Bunny, you and your partner are monogamous. Your partner says, you know what? Get out there. Go smooch that coworker. You do. And so you're in the middle of like figuring that out. You've got this other relationship you're now building with your coworker and you're smooching, and it's become a friends with benefits ordeal, as you said. And it's going okay. It's going good. And you're like working through it and you're devoting a ton of energy to it. And you're devoting a ton of energy to maintaining your normal, your ongoing pre-existing relationship. And then your partner says, well, now that we're doing the non-monogamy thing, I'm going to start going on some dates. So now you got to deal with your existing relationship. You got to deal with all of these new feelings about this other person. And now you're having to come face to face with a bunch of stuff for this other thing. Now you got to deal with your jealousy. You got to deal with like coping with that stuff. It's a lot all at once. And you got a life you got to live. So like, take it slow, work your way into this. I'm a little bit cynical, and I don't know that a monogamous relationship transitioning into a non-monogamous one is like I don't think that's medium difficulty. I think that's hard mode because you've built so much basis on this being a certain way. But I mean, don't take my word for it, Bunny. I think that you and your partner know each other better than I'm ever going to from a couple of paragraphs. Just keep in mind that that's going to be difficult. So, no, I don't think that you, I don't think that you should necessarily avoid building a relationship with your coworker altogether. I don't think that's necessary. Yes, take it slow. Be careful, right? Do I have any tips on how to handle a situation like this in the future? Every single relationship is unique and different, but building a practice internally, understanding yourself, knowing the things that you need and that you want, and understanding the way you communicate will build experience, right? Which is really all that tips are, right? It's building experience. Give yourself room to not do it right. Be open about that. Be like, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to try. Would it be hugely different if this person wasn't someone you see on a regular basis? Of course it would. But again, everything is, it's all very specific. It's all about those things. And then lastly, should you consult your partner for advice? Yes, but not exclusively. I don't want you to be in a position where your partner is backseat navigating your new relationship. And that's the relationship anarchist in me being like, I have this relationship and I have that relationship, and you don't get to say anything about you, and you don't get to say anything about you, but you can both talk to me. But that's how my brain stuff works. It might not be the same for you. You might have a more communally oriented style of non-monogamy, right? You might find that your polycule, some terminology, you might find that it's tighter and more interconnected. You got to find your own way. And this goes back to what I was talking about how non-monogamy and polyamory and stuff, they're not one thing. They're a lot of things. All non-monogamy is the absence of monogamy. You got to figure out how to make it work for you and for your partner and for their partners and for their partner's partner, and however big and weird that web is going to be for you. But you're not going to get it right the first time because there's no getting it right. There's no right way to do it. There's just be gentle with yourself and the people you love. That's it. Just do that. Like, try to be cool. Right? And be patient and give yourself some time to work it out. We'll talk a little bit more about non-monogamy in general and some like kind of core struggles. We'll get into some gender stuff in the third question. Our second question is about wanting but not having, or I guess having but not being able to access. I'm wondering how you spend time apart from someone you love and is a big part of your life. I've been dating someone, and due to circumstances, we're not able to see each other as often in person or over the phone for a while. We've talked about our situation, decided we should weather the storm and spend some time to ourselves till we can be together consistently again. Tabletop role-playing games are one of the few things I did without her, and I've started GMing some more games, but my style involves very little prep outside the game, which leaves me with more free time than most GMs. So I've been trying to find hobbies outside tabletop role-playing games and video games, but due to my depression, it's difficult to keep interest in something for very long, and I've started to run out of hobbies that are within the limits of my current mental health. So how do you spend time without someone who's a big part of life while you're waiting for them to come back? So let's use this as an opportunity to talk about long distance relationships, like period, just generally, right? And then we can talk a little about how to cope with not having the things that you want, right? How to sculpt your life around that. So you're going to hear a lot of people when the topic of long distance relationships comes up. You're going to hear a lot of people be like, nope. Don't do it. I don't do it. I won't do it. Long distance, not possible. Sucks. It's the worst. To which I say, disagree. You can make any kind of relationship work. If the people involved in the relationship are interested and they want to make it work and they care, you can find ways to derive satisfaction and value from any relationship. So don't let anyone tell you that your relationship is not worth doing. Don't let anybody tell you that, all right? Because it is, and it can be. You can make it worthwhile. You can, as you say, weather the storm. So how? Why? What makes a long-distance relationship like challenging? So I think that we have an idea in our head of what a relationship looks like. And we've talked on this show before about the relationship escalator, right? Where we think of a relationship as being, I don't know you, then I get to know you, then we're friends, then we date, then we do sex stuff, and then we move in together, and then we get married, and then we have babies, and then our babies grow up, and then we go on vacation to the south of France, and then we die. Maybe not all in that order, but like there's some very prescriptive things that happen in a normative relationship. There is a narrative. And I think that a lot of people who subscribe to that narrative see long distance relationships as short-circuiting the escalator. Right? We meet and we get to know each other and we become interested in each other and we realize that we live 1,000 miles apart, and we see each other sometimes, and then we're apart a lot, and that's sad. And we spend most of our time wishing we were together more, and we have sex 3 times a year, and then what do we do, right? And I think that having this prescriptive idea of what relationships should be like can lead us to having a hard time accepting relationships as they are. Now, this isn't to say that if you value being around someone all the time, and if your relationship needs involve a lot of physical contact, if you want to get on that escalator and you're looking for someone to ride the escalator to the south of France with you, maybe long distance relationships don't work for your life plan. They don't work to fulfill your emotional or physical needs. So I guess the first thing that you should do is think about what you want. Not in this relationship, not with this person, but like, what do you need in your life? Like I am in lots of long distance relationships. I'm in long distance relationships with people who live kind of far away. I'm in long distance relationships with people who live really far away. I'm in long distance relationships with people I've only ever met in person once in my whole life, and I care deeply about them. But for me, physically being in a relationship, feeling in a physical space with someone in a relationship is not super important. Like, it's nice to get hugs sometimes from a rare group of people. Sex stuff is nice sometimes. I don't have a huge need for it all the time. I have learned what my needs are, and I can make relationship choices intelligently accordingly. Now, if you're a person who's like, no, I need to be snuggled 100% of the time. If somebody is not touching me, I am just waiting to be touched again. I have like a massive need to just like be around other people all the time. Consider that need. And I know that this can feel weird. I know that it can feel like self-indulgent, but like, honestly, nobody on earth is going to take better care of you than you will. And if you expect to just like let other people have control over what the context of your relationship is, you're never going to get what you want. And if you don't know what you want, you'll definitely never get it. So think about your needs. Think about where those needs come from. Are you pursuing your own stuff, or are you following a prescribed narrative? I used to think that long distance relationships just couldn't work. I used to think that if you didn't see somebody every day, they would forget about you. And if you couldn't have close, intimate physical contact on the regular, then you were failing at your relationship. I believed the narrative about if you're with someone and they move away, they're either going to cheat on you or you're going to be miserable, or they're going to cheat on you and you're going to be miserable, right? None of that has to be true. You get to be the architect of your own relationship, and whether or not long distance is going to be a challenge, you may not be able to control it, but you can understand whether it's a challenge worth undertaking. So figure out what stuff you need. Figure out ways to get that, right? Like if you need physical contact, then yeah, maybe long distance isn't going to work unless you can get that physical contact elsewhere, right? So like maybe you don't do sex stuff with anyone else, but like you get to be around friends who like hug you a lot, or like you're comfortable with like more casual touching. Like maybe that's something you can get elsewhere, right? Maybe you're in a relationship with someone and you're not monogamous. Maybe you're at a distance with them physically, but it's okay for you to have close, intimate physical relationships with other people. Like that's an option too. If it's something else you need, if it's contact and feeling seen, if that's what you need, there are so many cool ways you could do that now. So many. Like we live in this just beautiful age where you can have a Skype call or a FaceTime call with somebody every goddamn day if you want to. You can schedule as much of that time as you need with them. You can make them a priority. You can watch movies together. You can play video games together. You can play role-playing games together. You can have long conversations about your feelings. You can look at their cute face. You can do sex stuff with them over the internet. It's like we live in a time in which those kinds of reinforcing behaviors have been expanded out into the grand ether. So try a bunch of different stuff and find things that are nice for you. Like for me, I have a couple of friends who are far away, and I make a point of like every month. I have a friend in Australia, and we talk together on Discord once a month. And we use that opportunity to, like, we talk other times, we share photos and casually talk back and forth. But that call is really special because it's just like a nice way for us to sit down and say, all right, for the next hour and a half, we're just focused on like being cool friends to each other, just talking about stuff. And that's great. I have people I talk to by text every day. I have people who message me back and forth who live in my time zone or other time zones. And when I feel like I want to feel closer to them, I change that. I offer like new stuff to do together. I say, do you want to like try like talking over voice, or do you want to watch a movie together, or do you want to play a game with me? Like you can try those things and figure out what helps scratch that itch, that intimacy itch that you have. So I think, again, like experimenting with what makes that relationship feel fulfilling. It's not about long distance or not. Long distance relationships just mean you can't casually see them. They don't live with you, and you don't get to have physical contact with them whenever you want, right? I have long distance relationships with people who live fucking 10 minutes away from me, right? Now, I've had people level that as a criticism. I had someone tell me once, and I felt like this was a really like a hurtful thing to say to me, but I had someone tell me like being in a relationship with you is like being in a long distance relationship with someone I shouldn't be in a long distance relationship with. You're right there. Why can't we hang out more? And it felt like hurtful because that was something that we never really like talked about. No one ever let me know that was something they went in expecting the relationship to be like. I was like, I feel really good about this. I know we don't see each other like every single day, but like this feels fulfilling, and it sucks that you have this different feeling. But like honestly, it's not about the distance. It's about emotional proximity and whether you're getting the things that you need and whether they are or not, right? Those things. I think a big problem is with long distance relationships generally is that we think of them as a deviation from some proper norm, that we think of them as worse or not as complete or not as real as a relationship with somebody who is close to us, right? Physically in proximity. And I think that sucks. We think of them as problems to be solved. We think of them as deviations to be undeviated. And I think that can be really hurtful for both people in a relationship, right? If you are in a relationship with somebody and the relationship has problems, it's fine to acknowledge those problems, but there's no reason to assume that being in a relationship with someone far away is problematic in and of itself. I know that's a lot of like kind of equivocating, but like, you know what I'm saying? You understand? Like it's fine. Being in a long distance relationship is as valid as being in any other kind of relationship. It just has its own circumstances. And maybe having an end goal is good for you. If you've agreed that this is a type of relationship that you don't want to be in this situation, you're going to fix it together with time. But it's okay for it not to be a problem to solve, right? I'm in relationships with people who live far away, and there's no plan to change that. There's no like sad desperation of like, when are we going to live in the same city? When are you going to be closer to me? I think you can acknowledge like it would be cool if you were here sometimes, but you don't have to feel guilty about it. You don't have to like bust yourself up. A relationship, it is what it is, right? Love it for that. Then it's hard. It's hard to do that, I think, sometimes, but do not consider your relationship a failure or broken or wrong in any way. Be excited about the kinds of things you're going to get to do with this person until you're able to be together more consistently. Don't think of it as bad. because that can really paint a relationship. That can really fuck things up. And you don't want that. You don't want that energy. You don't got time for that. As with any other relationship in the history of time, one thing that you can do to make that relationship better is to have a good time with yourself, right? And I think you're doing it, right? You're looking for hobbies, you're keeping yourself busy, you're living your life. Keep doing that. Be good to you. Keep taking care of you. And God, time passes so fast. I know sometimes it doesn't feel like it. I know, like, sometimes if you're not getting what you want, you're sitting there and you're like, every day feels like 1,000 years. But you'll look back at it and it'll all have passed, right? You'll be fine. It'll pass. Enjoy what it is. Like, just be okay. Yeah. Take a deep breath. Enjoy the unique aspects that being apart can give you. And keep taking care of yourself. So we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk a little bit about some fairly like common. So this question, it's a little I'm trying to find language that doesn't feel judgmental. It's a little tense. This question feels a little bit like it's coming from a place of like anger. It feels like it's coming from a place of confusion. And yeah, I'm gonna try to assume that it is a question that is being asked in good faith, and I'm gonna answer it like it is one. But yeah, just you'll understand. Let's talk about it. So Alien has a question. Alien says, I recently got dumped by my girlfriend. Okay, well, that's not exactly true. She offered to continue our relationship in an open way, which I declined. Then she ended it. I just couldn't picture myself going back to an open approach after a year of exclusivity. Questions to the relationship anarchist. How do you maintain balance in an open relationship? I.e., she could fuck 3 different guys every day, and I could manage 3 girls a month, maybe. Question the second. How can you keep jealousy under control? I don't have time for you today. I am meeting guy 2. Question the third. How can you manage constant competition? I buy her a fancy dinner on Friday. Guy 2 pays for her vacation. Guy 3 has the biggest dick, and so on. I'm not expecting to get her back in any way, but I'm questioning my views on relationships and the importance of money and sex. And that is why I am answering this question. Right? Up until that point, I'm like, and then I'm questioning my views on relationships and the importance of money and sex. Good. Yes. That's great. No, that's very, very good. This question is coming from a point of, I have these anxieties. I am afraid of these things. I'm feeling fucked up about these ideas. Should I be? Like, what is going on? Alien is examining his own feelings and opinions here. And I think that it, honestly, like, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. These are questions that I think men, especially, are expected to think and ask when they're in this position, right? Like, I think this is all very, very, very normal, like, male-oriented thinking. And that's, this is the thing. We get played this narrative where money and sex and buying people vacations and having a huge dick and having a shit ton of sex, those things are super important to that narrative. They don't have to be important to you, but they can be. You just want them to be important in a way that is healthy. So let's actually, I'm going to go through and we'll actually answer some of these questions. We'll talk about these questions. So it comes from a place of, I feel like, and I don't want to psychoanalyze you, Alien, because I don't have enough information to really like get to know you as a person. But based on what I've got here, I recently got dumped. I was dumped. Non-monogamy was offered as an alternative to being dumped. I said no, so I got dumped. A lot of negative stuff there, right? Tons of negative, like, emotional context. That is a bad place to come from. And it certainly could paint your impressions of non-monogamy moving forward from there. Though, as I was talking about in the first question, I think a lot of non-monogamy starts from bullshit behaviors in monogamy. I think that, like, I've been in this position before, or a similar one, where I was in a relationship with somebody and they got interested in someone else and they did some non-monogamous stuff with them, and they came to me and they said, okay, so this happened. I guess you're going to break up with me, right? Like, I made out with somebody else and I have these, like, feelings for them, and I still care deeply about you and I have those feelings for you, but I guess, like, you're going to break up with me because I did this bad thing. And I was like, well, I'm hurt that you couldn't talk to me about this stuff. And I understand why you couldn't, because we've never talked about non-monogamy before, but, like, no, it's okay. Like, let's build something new out of this. But coming to a new style of relationship or a new kind of relationship from an existing model, especially when that model has trauma in it, it can be very, very hard to move away from that, because then you're like, well, I'm getting all of these signals as a man. I'm getting all of these signals that I am a failure, right? That I should own my partner exclusively, that I should be able to maintain that ownership through sexual prowess and monetary reward. That is a very, like, normal narrative in the world. This is a thing that we are told. Sometimes we're told explicitly. Sometimes it's reinforced socially. There's lots of different ways in which that we are told to behave this way. And I think that there's, again, like I was talking about at the very, very beginning of the episode, there's nothing to feel bad about having these feelings, right? They came from somewhere and you're questioning them, and we can talk about them. So in a non-monogamous relationship, Alien would like to know, how do you maintain balance? And by balance, you mean both people have equal opportunities and equal action towards doing non-monogamous things. If you get to make out with somebody, I get to make out with somebody. If you get to go on a vacation to Turks and Caicos, I get to go on a vacation to the Bahamas. Just bundle that up, bundle that expectation up, and just fucking yeet it into space. Just hurl it into space. Fire it into the sun. That's not how it works. It is impossible, and you will just fucking self-destruct. It is perhaps the most harmful thing that I hear when people talk about non-monogamy. This idea of equality, of forced, like, it fucks with me so much. It will never happen. It cannot happen. You should not try. Do not attempt to balance this, because then, instead of just, like, having meaningful relationships with the people that you care about, right? Whether you care about just doing sex stuff with them and that's what the relationship is, or you're, like, having other relationships that are deep and emotional and have feelings in them, whatever, you're not going to focus on that if you are trying to maintain balance. If you are ahead in the game, this whole thing is just so gross. If you're ahead in the game, you're going to feel guilty, maybe, or I hope that's the negative feeling you're feeling if you're feeling anything, because otherwise you're going to feel like it's a competition, and that's even worse. But you're going to feel like you're doing it more than your partner, and you're either going to give up opportunities to be close to people, or you're just going to do it anyway, and it's going to ruin everything about what you're doing. It is going to poison you. It is going to poison your relationships on both ends of the scale. And if you are out there and you're trying to go on dates and you're trying to get close to people, not because you want to, but because your partner has had 3 sleepovers in the last week and you haven't even gone on a date yet, it's not a race. It's not a competition. It fucking sucks. It sucks a lot, and don't do it. So How do you maintain balance? You don't. Balance is a hierarchically oriented power structural thing that just fucks everybody from the top to the bottom and not in the way that you want. So accepting that in a non-monogamous relationship, discussing the parameters of that relationship, what you want, not what you feel comfortable allowing someone else to do, but what you want, figuring that out, consenting to that space, and then letting people live their lives. You can't maintain balance. It's not about that. And to be completely honest, even if you were able to do that, even if you were like, all right, honey, up to date, I have banged 7 people. How are you doing? And she's like, oh, I've only banged 6 people. And you're like, all right, honey, get out there and just bang it out. You got 1 more so that I can go on to number 8. And we'll just, it doesn't fucking work that way. Don't even, fuck it. Get it out of here. That's it. Don't. That's the answer to that one. How do you maintain balance? Balance is an illusion. And it's often just a way that we use to police each other's behavior so that we can handle number 2. How do you keep jealousy under control? The only way you can maintain survival in the face of jealousy is recognizing that you don't have anything to be afraid of, right? I do this through a deep and powerful sense of nihilism. It's not that I'm so great that I don't have anything to worry about ever. It's that nothing matters and that the worst thing that can happen can't touch me because eventually I'll be dead. So the thing is here, and that doesn't work for everybody. That's just my approach. But the thing here is that jealousy is a response to fear, right? Fear that someone will leave you. Fear that someone doesn't like you as much as they said that they do. Fear that someone doesn't like you as much as you like them. Fear of being emotionally vulnerable to someone. Fear of being abandoned. There's all of these fears, and the fear leads to jealousy. Jealousy is the attempt to grip on to the thing that is making you afraid and drag it into a place where it doesn't make you afraid anymore. Because this whole thing about, I don't have time for you today, I'm meeting guy 2, you're jealous because you feel like you should be getting their time. You feel entitled to this person, and you're not. Non-monogamy involves letting go of that. I'm not saying you shouldn't feel jealous. Jealous is it's a response to a feeling. Fear is real. But understand why you're afraid. What can you do to combat that deeper fear? It's not about guy 2 being better than you. It's about the person that you're with wanting to spend time with guy 2. But you also have to accept that maybe guy 2 is just like a better fit for this person than you are. Now, there are a lot of different ways that this kind of thing can happen. People will spend the amount of time they want to spend with people, and that'll change, right? People tend to get a little weird about new relationships, right? So they'll be like, this is a person, they're new, they're novelty, that's great. I'm really excited about them, and I really like them. I'm going to spend all my time with them. And you're over here and you're like, what am I, fucking chopped liver? And then that relationship that they're having will fade in intensity, and they'll be like, oh, novelty. Not so exciting anymore once it's gone. Hopefully this person is not a total a-hole and hasn't been ignoring you or treating you badly just because they're really excited. But the idea here is that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that whether this person cares about you a ton or cares about you a little. Like they will do what they want to do. And if you're in a monogamous relationship, that's still fucking true, right? In a monogamous relationship, if your partner meets guy 2 and is like, oh my God, guy 2, you're so handsome and cool, but I can't hang out with you. What are we going to do? And guy 2 is like, okay, I don't know. You have a boyfriend. And your partner is like, but guy 2, what if we did it in secret? Or she'll be like, guy 2, I can't love you, but I love you. And now I hate my partner because you won't let me love you. None of it is good. None of it is good. None of that is okay. So jealousy isn't about external stuff. External stuff is a trigger for fear. Jealousy is a response to fear. It is a clinging thing that makes you want to drag people close to you and hold on to them so they can never get away. But you don't want a prisoner. You want a relationship. Getting over jealousy takes time and energy and work, and it takes self-confidence more than anything else, because jealousy is fear and insecurity, and you need to work on being in love with you. And the more that you are comfortable with yourself, the more that you're like, the relationships that I'm in are beneficial above and beyond my own relationship with myself, but they are not crucial to my ongoing existence as a person, you'd be all right. But that takes work. Self-confidence takes fucking so much work. But that's the way you get through it. That's how you are not afraid. How can you manage constant competition? I buy her a fancy dinner on Friday. Guy 2 pays for her vacation. Guy 3 has the biggest dick. It sounds like this woman's life is fucking great, and that we should all be celebrating this lady and her fancy dinners and her paid for vacations and her, well, it's not her huge dick, but you know what I mean. So it's not like that. Like, okay, here's the thing, right? So you eat a hamburger at McDonald's, and you eat a hamburger at Burger King, and you eat a hamburger at Wendy's, and you've had 3 hamburgers. They're all different hamburgers, right? It's a different experience at each restaurant. You may be craving Wendy's today, but you may not want it tomorrow, right? You may be craving Burger King tomorrow, and in a week thinking about how much you want some of those fries, right? From the McDonald's. They're different experiences. It's not a competition, right? It's not about going out there and just being the best at sex and the richest and winning all of the ladies. It's about having value, not for your qualitative experience, but for the other way around, not for your quantitative, but your qualitative, right? It's not about how much money you have or being able to take people on vacation or doing all of this shit. It's not about your money. It's not about being good at sex. It's about building an experience as a person. And you have so much to offer just because you are you, because there is nothing about your lived experience that is the same as anyone else's. And if you get good with yourself, if you're like, I know what is cool about me, I know who I am, I know what's fun about me, I know what I bring to the table, and you feel confident about that, it doesn't matter if the person you are with is having fancy dinner with someone else or on vacation with someone else or having sex with like 17 million other people. It doesn't matter, because you're you and they are not. And if you're with someone who is judging you based on how much money you have or how large your genitals are, fuck them. Or don't, but bundle them up and yeet them into space. You don't be with people who reduce you to those kinds of things. You're more than that. And you deserve to be acknowledged for more than those things, both for yourself and by other people. Don't let people reduce you to this stuff. And don't, for the love of God, reduce yourself to that either. And if you see these other people, if you see your partner's other boyfriends as being competition, you're undermining your relationship with them and with yourself. You're doing yourself a disservice, right? And I guess that's the draw of these sort of like deeper community-oriented non-monogamy things, these kinds of structures where you can get to a place where you're all just happy because you care about the same person. So if guy 1 goes out to dinner with this person and guy 2 goes on vacation with them and guy 3 and this person have really nice sex times together, you should all be happy that this person is having such a nice life. And you should be taking the time and energy that you're going to get back from not being a single person's sole source of happiness. And you can invest that in yourself and in other relationships. And that's the thing, right? Is like, you need to be able to get over point two. You need to be able to get over that sense of jealousy and competition and balance, and like just recognize that like people having relationships with each other, it isn't always our business. As long as you're being safe, as long as your emotional needs are being met and you're spending time engaging and understanding those needs, it doesn't matter who's got the biggest dick. So I don't know. I think you're doing a good job, Alien. I mean, get that money, be good at sex, take care of yourself, go on vacation with hot ladies if that's what you want, right? Self-confidence is hot as fuck. Jealousy is a response to fear, and fear is harder to handle when you don't love yourself. So it's not really about non-monogamy, is it? Because competition, jealousy, all that stuff, that's going to happen anyway. Non-monogamy is just a way to drag it out in the open and address it. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just a different way of approaching this stuff. So keep working on it. Go to therapy. Talk to other men who are supportive and open about these things. Don't see people as competition. Open yourself up to the idea that you, and not to get too fucking Mr. Rogers about this, but like, you're special. Everybody is. That's the fucking great thing about being a person, is that we are unique by definition. It's what we do with that counts, right? That's the thing, right? Start there. So that's it. That's episode 32 of Hot for Teacher. Thank you for coming, everybody. I know this was kind of limited topics wise, but I feel like we covered some good stuff today. We'll do another episode in a couple of weeks. If you have questions in between then and now, or honestly just ever, you can hit me up. Go to my website, www.adam-koble.com. Click on that Hot for Teacher link and let me know what's on your mind. How are you feeling? What's going on with you? What are we going to talk about next time? Thanks for coming, everybody. And as always, we will see you around. Hey, y'all.